When you think of the professional wrestling company WWE, do you think of horror? Do you think about murderers, mayhem, and blood? No! You think about steel cages to the back of the neck and bra and panty matches, sometimes. Unless that's just me. But though WWE is associated with producing many critically acclaimed horror movies such as Oculus, let's just say that the ones that they happen to go all in on in production and use some of their actors in it never tend to be the best. It makes a lot of sense because if you look at the history of wrestling, from The Undertaker to the Boogeyman, to Bray Wyatt, they enter the darkness quite a lot in their storytelling. But does their horror live up to the expectations? There's one movie in particular that I want to talk about that wasn't all that bad. We're going to talk about See No Evil. Come hang out with me. What up, y'all? Welcome back to Phantom of the Indie Review. I am your host, Superman Punch Dill. What up, G? New Year, still nostalgia. That's right, baby. We are on the journey of 4,000 subscribers before my 31st birthday, which I'm an Aquarius, so if you fuck with that, you fuck with it. If you don't, you don't. So come hang out and give me a subby. WWE Studios is another corporate push from a company to really utilize in making film and mostly money. Again, it does make sense because they are cinematic, theatrical, and although a lot of people say wrestling is fake, it really does have a heart and soul for storytelling, so it only makes sense that they went to movies. I know they do have their hands in the pot for films such as No One Lives from 2012, Oculus, or The Call. See No Evil from 2006 was WWE's first ever attempt at a horror movie. In this one, they kind of had all their eggs in their basket, using one of their iconic superstars to portray the ruthless villain. And that's Kane. You know who Kane is. No, not the big scary guy with the mask. Kane, the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee. You know, this guy? Yeah, okay. Enough with the jokes. I understand that, people change. But back in the 90s, dude, Kane made his debut in WWE at a show called Bad Blood in Your House. Iconic manager Paul Bearer introduced Kane to the WWE universe as The Undertaker's long-lost half-brother. And his debut started a feud between him and Undertaker. Enough about that. I know you're not here to talk about wrestling. You're going to be like, yeah, wrestling's fake. Well, so much your mama's titties. But before we talk about See No Evil, the movie that I genuinely recommend, we're going to talk about one of the most dark, disturbing, and chaotic horror movies they ever produced. Leprechaun Origins. There has been some duds. Whether it's Pro Wrestlers vs. Zombies, starring Roddy Piper and a hodgepodge of other wrestlers that this was not produced by them, produced by wrestling. They also had that interactive one where the New Day had to escape the lair of the Undertaker, but that was more of a promotional thing. But there was another one that they were really heavily hell-bent on making, and this was Leprechaun Origins, starring Hornswoggle. You know me, I don't like to talk smack, but this movie was absolutely dog shit. I'm a fond lover of the Warwick Davis Leprechaun franchise. I've seen many times on my video me mentioning that. So when I found out that they were rebooting this movie back in 2014-ish, I was like, let's go. And WWE is doing it, how bad could it be? And then my man Hornswoggle was attached to it. I was like, dude, Finley and Hornswoggle were the funniest little shits in wrestling. I'm still a fan to this day, so I was like, this movie's not going to be iconic, but how bad can it be? Let's just say it was pretty bad from the all-around storyline, acting, and the way they treated the Leprechaun. It was pretty awful. They even had Brendan Fletcher in this movie, who I adore from Freddy vs. Jason, and he couldn't even carry the film. WWE Studios' official YouTube channel premiered a clip from the film with an introduction by Dylan Postal in 2014 in light of St. Patrick's Day. Dylan Postal, Hornswoggle. The movie centers around four American college friends, Sophie, Ben, Jenny, and David, who are vacationing in Ireland. And then you're like, that's cool, a Leprechaun movie that focuses in Ireland. That's really awesome. They go to a little farmhouse that's kind of reminiscent of the original one. But the movie's just bad, dude. I'm not going to get into spoilers. Again, I don't like the dog on movies. That's why I'm getting this out of the way first before I talk about the good stuff. Just a lot of lackluster tension, not the best kills, and the ultimate design of the Leprechaun. From when they, if you saw a picture of him right now, you'd be like, dude, that doesn't even look like a leprechaun. And a lot of plot holes, a lot of weird holes in the lore and story of it. It's just all around, it's just a funky movie. The reason I'm talking about this is just to get into the good, the bad, and the Dudley. Like the Dudley Bros. I'm a wrestling fan. It's one of the few maybe the only other horror movie other than See No Evil that they heavily produced and, like I said, teased on their YouTube and had a wrestling star in it to try to hype that up, because a lot of times, they're just strictly producers there for making money. They don't really try to involve themselves too much into it. So the contrast of Leprechaun Origins with See No Evil are a huge difference entirely. So yeah, picking Kane to be the main focal point as the killer in this movie I thought was a great idea. And I know what you're thinking, was this movie a success out of the gates? Hell no it wasn't. It was critically panned, people dogged it. But me, as the positive light on YouTube, I'm here to give people a second chance. I'm here to tell you that this movie's not as bad as it seems, starting off with Kane's portrayal as the killer, Jacob Goodnight, a man who is as close as it gets to being pure evil. Let's just say the man's MO is pretty brutal. He likes to take out the eyeballs of his victims, and in horror, eyeball psychology is a real thing. The eyes are a powerful tool for communication and can reveal a lot about a person's emotions, personality, and mental state. They can also provide insight into a person's cognitive processes, such as attention, memory, and decision making. A lot of times in movies, eyes are such a vulnerable and sensitive thing. Many things on your body are, but to get your eyes fucking ripped out of your skull, that's insane, mate. It's one of those things that genuinely makes people squirm. And Jacob was a tormented soul. He had a very religious, fanatic mother who would lock him up in a cage and give him nudie magazines and just torment him every time he had sick, sinful thoughts. She would bring girls over to the house and be like, "You like this? You like what you see, boy?" Honestly, she was just as evil as he was, and if anything, I'm not trying to defend the man, but he was kind of a victim to his mother's sadistic nature, where she would rip out the eyes of these harlots, so to speak, and show them to Jacob, being like, "Look at them. You look at what these are. You look at them." Very similar to kind of like a Leatherface character, where, his upbringing and home life is what kind of harbored him into being a psychotic, demented freak. As much as you feel bad for the man, he's still a ruthless killer. And from the start of the movie, from where Officer Frank Williams goes to the house of Jacob Goodnight with his partner Blaine to investigate some grisly disappearances and homicides. At the abandoned house, they find a young woman with her eyes ripped out. And a large figure with an axe comes up behind them, and it is our man, Mayor Kane. I'm gonna vote for him again. And through some brutal destruction and chaos, many people are killed, but the officer Frank happens to survive as he sees many, many victims, at least 7 or so, with eyes ripped out of them. And then the movie takes place 4 years later, where he's kind of traumatically getting over this, and he is a chaperone-esque mentor for this group of delinquents, half of them male and half of them female, which is like a volunteer thing where they take them to a hotel where if they do some good deeds, they'll get some time cut off their sentences. They go to a very creepy, eerie place, the abandoned Blackwell Hotel. So yeah, with the help of a couple other assistants, they're gonna turn this hotel into a homeless shelter, and they're like, well, maybe these delinquents can learn a lot about themselves, self-reflect, and, have some good memories while doing it. Definitely not get killed by a maniacal killer. And again, it's kind of a ragtag bunch of misfits. There's Christine, Kira, Michael, Tyson, Zoe, Melissa, Richie. A whole bunch of them. They all have their quirks. They do that cliche little thing where it's like, name, reason why they're bad people. Like, from shoplifting to assault, and their little bios kind of exemplify their personality. Like the one girl that has like kleptomania, she's like, as they show that, she's like stealing something out of one of the officers' purse. None of these characters at first really stick out. Like there was no really like main attractions. Like sometimes in these low budget B-rated movies, there's at least one actor that you see and you're like, oh, okay, they're in this, that's cool. But a lot of these ones, they were almost like knockoffs of other actors, from the one that's like an Eliza Cuthbert knockoff to that other dude that reminds me of the Ashmore twins. Apparently they were just paying Kane, even though Kane would have done it for free because he's a good guy, he's a mayor. So as they get into this hotel and start doing some work, obviously tensions are rising. A lot of these people don't really mess with each other. There's some little cliques. We find out that one of the dudes, Michael, did have a abusive relationship with one of the other girls, and this kind of sends Christina over the edge. She's like, dude, why would you bring him here when he's just going to belittle her and try to harm her? And Frank's a good guy. He's like, I hadn't a clue about this, and I'm sorry for that. As much as there's not, other than the intro when they're building up that lore, there's not really much known about. I like it because it's not like one of those things where it's like, on a dark and stormy night, Jacob Goodnight came here and we're in his haunted presence, To an extent, some of the characters do feel a weird vibe, but it's not like Camp Crystal Lake set up, and everyone's kind of doing their own thing. They're cleaning up, partying, having a good time. There's these two dudes that kind of have a side mission where they're like, dude, there's money buried here. I don't remember how he knows. The two dudes, Tyson and Richie, they decide to look for a previous owner's safe that is allegedly somewhere in the Blackwell Hotel. They're convinced. They're like, dude, we have a plan all hatched out. We're gonna act like we're in bed, and then when they all go down to party, we're gonna go looking for it. They are convinced through rumors and history that there's money hidden in here, and then this is where the movie kind of kickstarts, where as they are looking for this money, they stumble into a freshly killed body, and one of them makes a note. They're like, dude, this body hasn't been here for years. This is freshly killed. And they see the eyes taken out, and then this is where Jacob Goodnight's carnage ensues. And there are a lot of kills in this movie. Are there a lot of great kills? Not a lot of great ones, but there are some that kind of drop my jaw a little bit. I think Kane was a great choice to be the killer in this movie. He has a long, illustrious career in wrestling. He always played a formidable foe to The Undertaker, an anti-hero, a ruthless villain, and though Kane's character did unravel to be not to having a shaved head, and he didn't wear that iconic red mask and didn't have that creepy outfit in this movie, Kane still went on to be a dominant figure in wrestling with his eerie ambiance and effective atmosphere. Throughout the movie, as the carnage ensues, they're all kind of split apart amongst the hotel to fend for themselves, where Jacob is kind of targeting one girl because he sees some religious tattoos on her, and we get a good, in-depth psychological aspect of Jacob Goodnight. Like from Kane's acting, we see that he is traumatized from his childhood. He has some visions, some inner workings of his mind, where his mom, again, she just belittled sexual stuff, kind of like a lot like the Waterboy's mama, but, a lot more twisted. And, we see the torment he has from being locked up in the cage, to his mom being like, bringing girls home that had like tattoo stuff on, tattoos of religious pieces on them. And she's like, they're not really religious, Jacob. Do you see this? Do you see how bad they are? And then you're like, dude, like, it's just a cool tattoo. It'd be like all those dudes that get like tribal shit tattooed across them and the killer going after them for that. Like, they just like the design, bro. Dude, they should make that a movie. Roman Reigns goes after and just kills a bunch of people with tribal tattoos. And there are some scenes that stick out that I kind of want to talk about, with the one tense kind of vertigo-induced scene where two of them are trying to escape out the window, and as she is being lured down with the rope, he kind of disappears into the shadow, and Jacob starts pulling her up ruthlessly, smiling at her, and she's like, no, let me go, let me go, let me go. And as he's looking at her in a sadistic way, he's like, okay, I'll let you go, and then drops her, and as she fucking falls, the bed sheet or whatever it is gets tangled up, and she like breaks her hand and it rips open, and then through one of the holes in the wall, a bunch of dogs come out and just start brutally ripping her apart. And I'm like, that's a very interesting and unique kill. And I'm not trying to ride Kane too much, but his facial features, because even though he has like one line at the end of the movie, he just does a great job at performing as a silent killer. And they show that even though he's kind of built up like a Leatherface, where it seems like he might be mentally slow or a little bit not with it, he shows that he's very smart by having like booby traps set up at the hotel with like tripwires that have bells that kind of indicate where they are. And there's one scene too where, as they think he's getting onto the elevator to come down to get him, as the elevator door opens, they're like, where is he? And then he jumps through the wall. So he used that elevator to trick them, showing them that he's kind of a smart killer. And this all accumulates to the mother being reintroduced into the story, and you can kind of see that he is guilt-tripped into killing. As brutal and belligerent and, off-putting he is as a killer, he's kind of doing this for his mother until he's had enough with her. But all in all, it's a pretty good movie. It's really short. It's like an hour and a half. It tells a good story and a good build-up and a good legend to Jacob Midnight. I feel like it's a very unique character. Obviously, there's some religious tropes in there. There are some, cliches that can't be avoided in horror, but Kane's performance was awesome. The people that had to play scared of Kane did really good. The ensemble cast of all the victims, of all the delinquents turned victims, were good. And there are some surprise kills where some people get killed way earlier on than you expect, that I thought was pretty good. And all around, I feel like even though this movie was critically panned, WWE might have created a horror icon. I mean, okay, I know I'm not trying to use that word loosely. Not a horror icon, but definitely a unique killer that has a lot of potential for a universe and a reboot potentially. I mean, there's a lot of people in WWE that could maybe reprise this role, or just get Kane back at it. Be like, hey, dude, we need you to step away from being a mayor for just a minute and do this. And all in all, it's just a pretty solid movie. When I say it's scary, I mean I'm a 30-year-old watching a WWE movie. It's not as scary as that last pay-per-view. I'm sorry, dude. I like wrestling, okay? But yeah, it was just an effective movie that I think just deserves a lot more credit and people give it recognition for. And I've even heard that the sequel is way better. So if this video can get about 17 likes, I'm gonna do a follow-up review on the sequel. I still probably might do it regardless. But comment down below, guys. Let me know what you think. Are you a wrestling fan like me, or am I a freaking dweeb? Do you think they could have casted someone else to play him? Maybe like Mick Foley or Snitsky, dude. That'd be lit. And were you just a fan of this movie? Have you seen it? I mean, I think it's on Amazon Prime for free. If you haven't, just comment down below and let me know what you think about this movie. But alright, guys, thank you so much for watching. This is the first video back of the year. We kicking it into full gear. I'm gonna be doing some longer videos, some scarier videos, hopefully some more funny ones. I like to think I'm funny, but a lot of people don't. But alright, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, give me a thumber, hit that ding-a-ling button harassing you, telling you, hey, it's me, I'm here, and I'm gonna say it one time for the one time and two time for the O's. Give me a hell yeah for horror.
What's up, Holmes?